I married the man who found my sister's body. 15 years later, I learned he put her there. You think you know what love looks like. You picture someone who holds you through your darkest moments, who understands your pain because they witnessed it firsthand. You don't picture the person who created that darkness in the first place. But that's exactly who I married. Vincent was the hiker who discovered my sister Renee's body in the woods behind our neighborhood in 2008. She was 16. I was 14. She had been missing for 11 days when he called 911 from the trail, his voice shaking as he described what he'd found. He became a witness, then a source of comfort for my grieving family, then my boyfriend 4 years later, and finally my husband in 2015. We had 2 children together. We built a life on the foundation of shared trauma. Every year on the anniversary of Renee's death, Vincent held me while I cried. And every year, he knew exactly why she was dead because he was the one who killed her. Renee was strangled. The police determined she had been dead for approximately 3 days when Vincent found her, meaning she had been held somewhere for over a week before being killed. That detail destroyed my parents. 8 days. 8 days when she might have been alive. Might have been saved if only someone had looked in the right place. The investigation focused on a registered offender who lived 2 towns over. He had no alibi and a history of violence against young women. He was arrested, tried, and convicted based on circumstantial evidence and a jailhouse informant who claimed he'd confessed. I sat in that courtroom and watched him get sentenced to life. I felt something like closure. But the wrong man went to prison, and the real killer came to Renee's funeral and cried convincing tears beside my family. Vincent and I met officially 3 years after Renee's death. I was a freshman in college, still raw with grief, when I attended a support group for families of violent crime victims. He was there volunteering, helping facilitate sessions. He told me he'd been haunted by finding Renee, that he couldn't stop thinking about her family. He said helping others process trauma was his way of coping. I thought it was beautiful. I thought he was the most compassionate person I'd ever met. We started dating a year later. My parents adored him. They said Renee had brought us together somehow, that something good had finally come from something terrible. At our wedding, my father gave a toast thanking Vincent for giving their surviving daughter a chance at happiness. Vincent smiled through the whole speech. I wonder now what was going through his mind. The truth surfaced because of a podcast. In 2022, a true crime series re-examined Renee's case and raised questions about the conviction. The podcasters obtained DNA evidence that had never been properly tested due to budget cuts and an overwhelmed crime lab. They paid for independent analysis. The results excluded the man in prison. Someone else's DNA was under Renee's fingernails. Someone else had scratched her during her final struggle. The case was reopened. Detectives began building a new suspect profile using genetic genealogy, the same technology that had solved the Golden State Killer case. I followed every development obsessively, convinced we were finally going to find the real monster. I had no idea I was sleeping next to him every night. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was picking my kids up from school when a detective asked me to come to the station. He said they had identified a new suspect through the DNA match. He said they needed to ask me some questions. I assumed they wanted information about someone from Renee's past, maybe a teacher or a coach or someone I might remember. Then he showed me the family tree the genealogists had constructed. The DNA matched Vincent's bloodline. His cousin had submitted a sample to a commercial ancestry service, and the algorithm had done the rest. They had already obtained Vincent's DNA from a coffee cup he'd thrown away at work. Perfect match to the skin cells Renee had clawed from her attacker. I sat in that interrogation room and felt my entire life collapse into ash. Vincent was arrested at his office in front of his coworkers. He confessed within 6 hours, detailing everything in a flat voice like he was reading a grocery list. He had been obsessed with Renee for months before her disappearance. He had taken her from our neighborhood while I was at a friend's house. He had kept her in a storage unit his family owned. When she tried to escape, he panicked and strangled her. Then he waited 3 days and pretended to find her body so he could control the narrative. He inserted himself into our family's grief because he wanted to watch. The innocent man who spent 14 years in prison was released and given a settlement that will never restore what was stolen from him. Vincent got life without parole. I burned our wedding photos and started therapy twice a week.